Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Jawish. I'm one of the founders of a startup, an AI startup, Shift Technology. What is it in a sentence? It has 700 employees. Like all entrepreneurs, I'm here to tell you about an entrepreneur's life. It's about constant metamorphosis. It's something that's forced upon you. I'm not going to tell you about the life of this startup, but what I wanted to share with you today is how you see startups from outside. You feel like that you're on a continual wave of expansion. It's not the reality, actually. There's all these metamorphoses that are imposed upon you, and there are these shocks that come up. To give you some ideas of this, I started the Shift with a friend. We were students. Like some good mathematicians, we wanted to change the world, but rather than doing that with formally, we thought we'll start a company and we'll create algorithms and we'll ask some big companies to work with us. After a few weeks of harassing others, we had a meeting with a CEO. Just imagine two students who've never met a CEO before. We spent a week choosing our suit. We had a rehearsal the night before in front of the mirror. We went and met this CEO. He said, do you think we're really going to work with young people like you? The CEO told us. So we had 3 weeks of preparation, and then it's like the door was shut in our face. So metamorphosis, you don't have the choice. As a student, you have to do that. You have to metamorphosize with someone who has to have the trust in yourself, self-confidence, and to become an entrepreneur. For the last 5 or 6 years, we've had metamorphoses, and we've also had these shocks that have come up. Over time, we've managed to turn into smiling entrepreneurs. We're moving forward and we're recruiting. Previously, the only 2 people I'd managed were my 2 younger brothers. But I've ended up employing people who were the same age as me. And then I had to manage them as well without having had any training in any of this. So I managed them as I would have managed my young brothers. After six months, half the team left and said, well, you're not my dad. So I ended up with my colleagues, and I said, remaining colleagues, I'm not their dad. And everyone said, what are we going to do with him? I could say, well, it seems funny now, but at the time, it wasn't. Once again, a big moment of realization. And we thought we're going to have to metamorphosize. So we've moved from 3 interns to a large number of people working for us. So you think, oh, everything's great. We're going to avoid these shocks in future. Like in 2020, then, of course, like everyone else, we had COVID. One day to the next, we ended up working from home. Everyone was at home. We're looking at our screens. We felt that we went free fall at the time. Of course, the children at home screaming, as was the case everywhere. We felt completely lost with our investors as well. We had to move from management in person to management virtually. And that was difficult. I'm speaking here on behalf of everybody who's lived through COVID on a professional level. On a professional level, everyone has experienced this around the world. Yet again, it was an impetus that forced us to metamorphosize. There was a shock there for us as an entrepreneur. Whenever you have a shock like that, you recall all the other shocks that you've had as an entrepreneur. The only piece of advice that I'd give to any entrepreneur or young entrepreneur or anyone who's asking if one day they'd like to become an entrepreneur is that it's an incredible experience. You're obliged to metamorphosize on a daily basis. The day where you say that you're not going to metamorphosize anymore, well, then you'll die out. You're not necessarily going to die out physically, but emotionally, that's possibly intellectually. That's what behind Shift technology. Our aim is to continue to undergo this metamorphosis every day. With all these shocks and all these changes, what gives me this desire to undergo metamorphosis every day are these hundreds of people who get up every day and say, I'm going to change the world. We work for insurers at the moment. We help them to be there for their clients. 700 people work for us, and every morning they wake up. We're helping millions of people work in the insurance sector who also in turn work for billions of people. All these shocks that we've had, well, we think about them every morning. Well, we shrug our shoulders and we think we're helping people who've had accidents. They end up in hospital and they don't know what to do. This music is in the heads of many young people like me, people who want to change the world. Thank you.